What happened last week was horrific. Once again, a religion being targeted, in this case, the Jewish community, and it is just horrible. So let's go around the studio here and tell us who you are. We've got about 12 minutes to put all of this in, so don't hold back. My apologies. What was going to be an hour turned into 12 minutes. But that just happens. All right, starting right here around the room, if we could.
Reverend Joel Farnamus. I'm with the Interfaith Coalition of Greater Utica.
Rabbi Peter Shackman at Temple Emmanuel of Utica.
Shelley Callahan, Mohawk Valley Resource Center for Refugees.
I'm Sal Mamich, Imam at Bosnian Islamic Association of Utica.
David Cleaver, Bartholomew, Zion Lutheran Church, New Hartford.
Okay, Rabbi, let's let you start this. Here we are again.
Here we are again. And nothing seems to have changed. Our culture is still supporting a culture of violence that's giving people permission to act out their worst impulses, and people are getting are wounded and killed. And and it's now become an equal opportunity endeavor. The rise of xenophobia and anti-Semitism and racism in our society continues to grow, and the question is when are we going to stop? When the Pittsburgh shooting happened, I said we can't be bystanders to hate.
Yeah.
And we still that question still lingers. When are we going to take action and not just talk?
What does action mean? Who wants to? You can grab that and
jump in. Well, action, I think, means I'm really tired of sitting in another service that remembers people who've died.
Yeah.
I want to stand out in the streets, maybe because I've been doing that since the 60s, and just hold up mirrors, signs, just be a presence. It needs to stop.
Yeah.
We need to stop this, and we can't wait for government to stop it. We need to stop it here.
Well, government has clearly shown an abject failure to show any concern for this. I mean, we're living in a society where our leaders are not really taking strong stands against this kind of violence. They're paying lip service in some cases, but they're not saying it's simply not American. It's not who we are.
Right.
I want to go to Shelley, if I could. Callahan, Mohawk Valley Resource Center for Refugees. Is it that we're more different today? Is it that there is this? Where is this all coming from?
I think that our present government has made it their mission to sort of create an otherness with regard to refugees and immigrants and people that they don't consider to be on their side. So even politics.
Yeah.
If you're on the other side of whatever political spectrum they're on, you're the other, you're the enemy.
Right,
and there's
right.
an incivility in language. We see it in our local, government of what is acceptable behavior, and it all matters.
Do we all agree that it comes from the top? It comes from government at the top? Everybody agree with that?
I don't think government creates it. I think that government permits it. I think that we have in our society, we have tremendous currents of bigotry, and it's always been there, and we probably have not dealt with that adequately over many years. But now we have a leadership that's saying that's okay if you want to express your hatred in that way. That's okay. That's normative. There's good people on both sides.
Yeah. You want to pick it up from there?
Well, I would agree with Peter in that, no, I don't think that we can lay it all at the feet of the government, that a lot of this has been in our society for a long period of time. Mm-hmm. And there seems to be a permissiveness today. And I think it increases. It generates like kind of a snowball effect when you start to see it and you see there are no ramifications or repercussions for the bad behavior. That gives people permission to exercise more bad behavior.
Yeah. It is interesting to watch that for instance, after 9/11, the Muslim faith, and I've seen interviews with Muslims who've said that they've been in a really tough position since 9/11 because they feel they're discriminated against. And at some point, we are, as a society, arguing. If you remember President Bush at the time, who wouldn't use those words, who tried to keep the word Muslim out of the enemy label. Yet you have a whole group out there saying, "Call it what it is. They're Muslims." How do you respond to that? And what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, the Muslims were also target in this case in San Diego. I heard this young man. He went first to the mosque and he make a fire in the mosque. He burned some fire in the mosque, and then he went to the synagogue and have a shooting over there. And unfortunately, we are here to talk about this, but I think that government should be more restrictive with this. They must have laws against these things. Like, I don't know, I'm not here. I'm not the one who's saying we need Islamic law in this case, but Islamic law is clear about this. The one man who kill another one, I think the Jewish law is the same and Christian is the same, has to get the same punishment to come back.
An eye for an eye type mentality?
Yeah, it's eye for eye. I got a question from the student this Saturday. Is eye for eye in the Quran or not? And then I said, it is, but it say also it's better to forgive if it's any chance to forgive.
Yeah.
But you can't, if someone kills your family member, you can't kill him back. It has to be ordered by government.
Okay.
So you can't do that. It has to be prosecuted by government.
So I almost kind of wonder, we talk about gun legislation, we talk about penalties and making the punishment, but ultimately there's an ideology here that the laws will not change any of this. So do you guys all agree that there is, and maybe it's because there's a certain part of America, the face of America is beginning to change. Yeah. And it is. And we've known it's been coming, and I've always wondered what will it be like when that percentage of people who are different, that are not your typical white Americans, when that begins to change, and it has. The percentages have changed, and in another 20 years it's going to be much different. Right. Is that what we're experiencing right now, or is there just these small pockets of people in the country that have zero tolerance for anyone that's different? Good luck on answering that, by the way.
I'm going to say that I think that, first of all, that people with zero tolerance are afraid. They're afraid that they're losing something.
Right.
I'm not sure what they're losing. Our president tells me the country's full and we don't need any more people, which looks pretty empty to me when I'm driving around, and I know there's a lot of people we need. One of the things that I think that we can do is try to see each other's faces, try to understand. When HIV and AIDS started, people with AIDS couldn't even be seen in hospitals.
Right.
They were like way away. But when we saw the quilt, when people saw the quilt, they saw people they knew. They saw families. And then you started seeing a difference, the way people are treated with AIDS. I think that's where we need to go now. We need to see people as people and not as them. Mm-hmm. And that can only happen when we actually listen,
right,
instead of shout at each other.
And get to know people.
Well, and I would say that's one of the great, and Shelley and I were talking about this earlier, one of the great advantages of being here in Utica is that we have so many people from so many different places, that we have relationships with others, and they are no longer objects. They are no longer the other. They are our neighbors. They are our co-workers. They are our friends. They are the people who come to us when we are in times of need in the hospitals and take care of us. And so we relate to them on a very human level, and we have relationships. And that's one of the great gifts of being here in Utica, is that interaction. Whereas you go outside of, say, the Utica area, not very far away, and you're in communities that are completely white.
Right.
And Christian or Jewish or something, but mostly predominantly Western European Christian, and they see that slipping away, and they don't have relationships with people who are not like them.
Right.
And they are afraid.
And how do we solve this problem without making I'm white, I'm Christian, without making me feel like I am being excluded or blamed for what's going on? Because I know that's the phone call I'm going to take at 9:02.
But that's an interesting idea. The idea that anyone's being excluded is there's no evidence for that.
Right.
And the idea that you're losing something. I mean, what you're losing is that you're not. Is that white men and white in general are not going to be the. You mentioned typical. They're not going to be typical anymore.
Yeah.
So
that's. Go ahead, Shelley. Grab the.
I do like data matters, but I think it was Newt Gingrich who said it's not so much the facts, it's how people feel.
Right.
And so I think we have to deal with that people are feeling like they're being excluded or blamed.
Right. I think that's a very good point. That so there's no evidence that you're being excluded, but why do I feel that way?
Exactly.
Right.
And so I think we need to deal with that. I don't have all the answers, but it was interesting. I think I was in the hospital with my sister who broke her hip the same time you might have been in the hospital.
Really?
And I took note of how many people from different faith backgrounds, different ethnicities were involved in the care that we received there at St. Elizabeth's and then at St. Luke's rehab. It was exceptional, and I just kept thinking, what would we have done if all these people weren't here?
Right.
And this is my community. And
several of the people that we might be afraid of are the person conducting the surgery on you, as a matter of fact. So, okay, quickly, what do we do next? What do you do next? Is there any meetings that are coming up? Just the fact that we're able to bring all of you guys in from different faiths is huge. What do we do next?
We have to stop. We have to stop having services and doing nothing else. I think one very important thing is that it really matters on every level. We have to not allow, if those of us who understand that bigotry and xenophobia and anti-Semitism and is wrong, have to speak out not only in public but in private conversations. We have to help people, our friends and our neighbors and our family understand that this is not acceptable. These are not acceptable attitudes in our society.
We will do this again. Right. I apologize. Yes.
Coming up, World Refugee Day.
Okay.
World Refugee Day celebration, June 22nd at Hanna Park. There's a citizenship ceremony and lots of educational opportunities and fun things to do.
Let's get you back in before that. Okay? Fair enough? We'll do this again where nothing else comes up. I got a break.